So, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, I understand atonement. Because in the Jewish religion, Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. It is looking back and looking at all the transgressions you ever made and atoning for your sins. I mean, that's essentially what I've come to believe what Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, which happens, I think, around September, October, something like that, in the fall. And so, yeah, you know, when you think about the J world, it's very Jewishly mystical, okay? Because it is atonement. It is facing the transgressions. It doesn't even, it is a spiritual journey, which I didn't even think about, like, characterizing the J world like that it's a spiritual journey. But it really is, because you are atoning for everything that you've ever done to yourself. And you will feel every single thing that ever happened to you on some level. And it could be psychological. You might even feel certain physical pains in areas that have trauma to it. And then you'll have to deal with that. And then whatever else you've done to stop the pain from that physical trauma will also be something that you have to atone for. I mean, putting ourselves in danger in body, mind, and spirit is a violation against life when you think about it. And so if you receive trauma because you put yourself in a position to receive trauma, then you have to atone for that. You have to actually own up to that situation, that you have put yourself in that position to be, abused or to be violated in some way. And so there's an atonement for that. And then how you deal with that trauma could be something that you have to atone for. So you could be atoning for things twice for one incident because of how you dealt with it afterwards. See, and that's the thing with the whole J world. And it's, I guess, and it's so interesting that it is part of the Rosicrucian order, because that's right now what's going on. Everyone right now is atoning for the sins against their body. Physically, emotionally, intellectually, whatever. Everyone out there in the world right now are atoning for the sins they committed against their body, their mind, and their spirit. And their kids are also paying the price too. Because I'll tell you, the suffering is a reminder of what you did and what you've put yourself before, or what you have put yourself into to be exposed to trauma, to be exposed to violence, to be exposed to so many things that your body would go into some kind of shock over. And so, it's suffering is a reminder. It's a reminder. Never, ever do that thing again, ever in your life. And that's the thing. This whole thing with my dog, it was a suffering for me. It was a suffering for my husband. He's not going to bring home a dog now in the future. Before, if I hadn't gone through this process, he would have brought home a dog like a little mini pin, because he wants a mini pin. Maybe one day in the future we'll get it, and if he's home, he can take care of it. But I'm going to let him be the one to take care of a dog. But since he's on the road, that's not going to happen, so we're probably not going to get a dog. And we will retire in this house. But that's the thing. The suffering even taught him not to just take life for granted and bring it home to me to take care of, like we have been, before with the lizards and the dog and all that stuff. Which I did profess I wanted a dog way back in 2015 before that, so they gave me what I wanted. Be careful what you wish for, okay? You just might get it. Okay, so suffering reminds you never to go down that road again. And so, oh, believe me, I won't be going down that road, because I will not, if I get an animal in the future, way in the future, if that even happens, it's going to be from a puppy, and I'm going to know the parents. Because, and even then you still don't really know what's in that genetic line. But knowing that a dog went through medical trauma, surgical trauma, which is a sin against the body that she had to atone for, and I had to fucking atone for it too. You know, we had, both of us were punished for that. So was my husband. So was everybody on Facebook, because you were all watching this. Okay, so we all have to atone for the sins that were committed against our body, mind, and spirit. And so you don't want to be the one to end somebody's suffering. Let me tell you, that was the mistake in the J world way in the beginning, is that we were professing to end people's suffering. No, we don't want to end anyone's suffering. We want suffering to leave the body on its own accord, and you give it the space to do it. You give it the exit points. You open the fucking door. But right now, people's doors are closed, or they're open just a crack. Literally, like a butt crack. They're open just a crack. They don't want the fucking demons to leave their body. People don't want to end their suffering. Really, they want to suffer. They just don't want to feel it. Because if they really wanted to have suffering leave their body, they wouldn't be committing all kinds of crimes against nature. When you think about it, going under the knife is a crime against nature. Taking all these pills, power supplements, and detoxes, and herbal remedies, and shit from fucking Tractor Supply that someone recommended me in the fucking J world. That's crimes against nature. I was actually pretty tripped out that that lady recommended me something from Tractor Supply, a horse thing. I was like, what the hell? But I'm like, I know people. They just don't get it. And so I know, I obviously, not everybody in the J world understands the J world, okay? But I'm fine with having people just hang on for whatever reason. I can't convert them. But that's the thing. That's the crimes against nature you got to pay for. You got to fucking pay for crimes against nature. And so believe me, I learned many lessons this last 8 years, this last 6 years. And so in the J world, you do not want to end people's suffering. The way you go about giving sympathy to somebody who is suffering is saying, I hope you fucking survive your sins against your body. I hope you survive the pains of life. I hope you give it the space to fucking leave. I hope you change your lifestyle. I hope you change your belief systems. I hope you change so you can fucking survive this. But that's it. You don't take away somebody's suffering. And so that's why I don't give to GoFundMe accounts. I don't go give to cancer GoFundMe accounts and someone says, oh yeah, I have cancer here. Give to my GoFundMe account. No, I'm not. I'm not going to give to your... What I'll do if we're friends is I'll give you food. I'll bake you a fucking pie or something. Oh my God, it's the sugar. Yeah, okay. But at this point, with how much suffering out there in the world and everybody's coming down with something, everyone's going to want something for their disease. And so then that's when you're like, okay, then you have to really draw the boundaries and you really have to put out your belief system so people know not to come to you to end their suffering because you don't want to be the one to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Could that dollar you gave to their GoFundMe account so they can get all their remedies and surgeries be the thing that kills them? Could that dollar be the thing that kills them? That's what you're contributing to? Could that herbal remedy that you sold somebody be the thing that breaks them, that destroys them at the end? You don't want to be responsible for that. You don't want to end somebody's suffering. You want, if you want to help somebody, they give them dinner, buy them dinner. Here, this food will give you another day. But that's it. But you can't feed them for their whole life, right? But feeding somebody who has cancer is better than contributing to an herbal remedy or a surgery or an oncology to end their life systematically, micro levelly and macro levelly. And so then you can actually you could still help somebody without destroying them. You can still help someone without destroying them. But no, I don't just give money to people because they're suffering from cancer. Sorry, I don't do that. Because let me tell you, when you get exposed to, let's say, like you get exposed to a plume of elements that you're not used to, yeah, you'll breathe it in, might feel something, and it'll be in your shit. It'll be in your poop. It'll lay in your poop, in your gut, and you will have the choice to release that or to keep it in and let that metastasize and cause mutations, a domino effect of mutations. And so actually you have the choice to keep that trauma of being exposed to environmental pollutants, you have that control to either be exposed to it and then keep it in your body or release it. That's the whole point of the J world. Now, I'm not saying do the J juice all the time because you're living in Ohio and you think everything is contaminated in Ohio. No, it means that when you start feeling stuff, you release the fucking demons. And it's not just one demon that you're going to feel. You already have predisposed issues. Now, since this whole contamination and explosions here and there are happening simultaneously, let me tell you, you already see people on TV already blaming for what they already have inside on everything that just recently happened. They don't realize that, yeah, you're feeling respiratory conditions, you're feeling COVID. Maybe they didn't have COVID, but they had predisposed issues that something like a plume woke up. But see, again, I've been exposed to my dog's microbes and whatever else, and I was able to release the demons. I survived the suffering. I had to pull out the programming, yes. And I tell you, it was a daily thing, and I didn't know when it was going to end. But I knew through my own strategy, and I knew just from the last 6 years that it was going to end. I just didn't know when, what was going to end. The pain of the cramping, the pain of the fatigue, the pain of the feeling like I had lead in my joints. Okay? And so I had to have faith that I was the one that was going to give the space for the suffering to leave, not end it. I wasn't taking J juice to end my suffering. I wasn't taking any herbal remedy or a surgery or whine on Facebook to say end my suffering. Because I'm going to tell you, just because I expressed pain doesn't give anyone the right to end my suffering, which people tried to do. They tried to end my life on Facebook. They tried to end my suffering on Facebook by recommending me something from Tractor fucking Supply. And I'm just like, I'm so baffled that this person even recommended that to me. But hey, it's, again, people don't get it. But you should be allowed to express the pain of life without someone trying to destroy you, whether it's through virtually or even physically in your presence. You should be able to express pain without everyone coming in and giving you a recommendation of an herbal remedy, a detox, even the J juice or anything else. Because you are alive. And now you have to deal with the transgressions you committed against your own body. That's the hardest thing, is people don't know how to atone for their own sins. And I sound like a freaking preacher right now. But in reality, this is Jewish mysticism. This is Christian Gnosticism. This is Egyptology. This is the Rosicrucians. This is the New World Order. Gone are the days where you get everything for free. Gone are the days where you have absolutely no responsibility, all absolution from politics, religion, and science. Now everyone has to now fight that battle of the demons that they allowed in their body and let metastasize because they didn't want to change. They kept going to the medical and the holistic system and taking all their tinctures and everything else to stop it. Well, eventually you're going to have to pay the piper, and people are, and they don't fucking like it. And then they want to go and blame everyone around them. And that's why you do not want to be the one to end anyone's suffering at all whatsoever. So I'm giving you a way to give sympathy and to be consistent with your belief systems in the J world, if that is what you are trying to promote, is that you don't want to end someone's suffering. You don't want to kill anyone, but you want them to know that you think that you hope they survive all the transgressions they've ever did, because you don't know people's history. I didn't really know my whole dog's history until I actually saw it. That's the thing. If you don't know someone's history, you have no fucking business ending their suffering. That's for a doctor and a nurse. And even a nurse doesn't have that kind of power to end someone's suffering because they don't have that kind of license. Only a doctor can be the one to end someone's suffering. And so now you guys are all free and in the J world. And now you have a way to respond to people. And you can still get your point across that you want them to live. You know they're going to have to suffer through it. And you hope they fucking live. But since you don't know their whole history, you don't know their current lifestyle, you can't be the one to say, well, here, you try this, here, you try that, here, you try this. That's not for you to fucking do. And that is what the J world does. That's why I don't have a group. Because I could just say this to anyone out there. I hope you survive the transgressions you've committed against your body. I hope you survive your own genetic line. I hope you survive your lifestyle and belief system. But I ain't gonna be the one to give you absolution for your own fucking mistakes. I ain't gonna be the scapegoat to your fucking situation. Oh, they tried to do that to me a long time ago. But no, that poor guy, he was already set. The train has already left the station for him. He wasn't going to eat all food in the food supply. He was in the religious world, and a lot of food wasn't even on the table for them. And so he chose whatever he chose. The stage was set. And for my dog, too, the stage was already fucking set. The cards were stacked against me. The cards will always be stacked against those who think they can save somebody else. Always. Always. That's why you don't fucking save somebody else. You save yourself. Because you know what you can handle as far as suffering. And you know how many transgressions you committed against yourself. And so some people know that, oh, I've had 10,000 surgeries and I've had Botox, basically, you know, what is it? Poison pumped into my face. Not me, but those that have done all that stuff. And you know you're going to have to pay for that. Can you imagine when you finally do? If you've had so much plastic surgery and you had so much Botox pumped into your face and then you do the whole J-World thing where you're facing your demons, you will blow up like a fucking balloon. And I will be quite honest. Yes, people are right now are swelling from all the hormones from the energy conversion. And they got to deal with it. You still got to eat. You still got to make sure that your foods has the correct elements in it. You're not trying to avoid anything. And you got to deal with the transgressions. You got to deal with it. And is it for me to say that you can handle it? No, I just say, I hope you do what's best for you. And I've learned how to respond that way. It's hard. I'll tell you, it's hard to respond in the way that I'm responding to those who are suffering. Because you know how horrible suffering can be, but you know it's fucking necessary. Let me tell you, when I was turning over, you know, on my bed a couple days ago and I was yelling, and I was fucking yelling because it fucking hurt. Oh, I didn't enjoy it, but I knew I had to deal with it. And I knew eventually it would end, but I didn't know how long, but I wasn't going to worry about how long. I knew that I had to sit with it. I had to sit with it. I had to deal with it. And the only power that I had was to eat food, rest, and pull out the fucking poop. That was the only power I had. Because I was not going to take anything for it. Not even the J juice. Because people will take J juice for pain. They're using it as a cure. And eventually you'll have breakthrough infection. And even the J juice won't work anymore. And then you'll find something pharmaceutical. Because again, cures are temporary. And that's why people turn to pharmaceutical grade painkillers, because they've exhausted mother freaking nature and they've exhausted their over-the-counter drugs, and so now they got to turn to something so aggressive that it turns into morphine, because that's probably the only thing that can give them some kind of relief, and by that time it's probably too late. It doesn't even matter at that point. So I just sat. That's how I was able just to get through. I just sat through it. How was I able to? Because I knew that I had to do it. I had to pay for the sins of whatever I did in my 20s. That's why I posted those, when I was going through my files yesterday, I posted those pictures, those old name tags. So you see that, yeah, you know, back in the 90s, I looked a certain way, back in, you know, and then in the 20s, or my 20s and 30s and 40s. And where I was at, yeah, California. And I'm sure I've taken so many over-the-counter drugs. I'm sure with all the birth control and the Norplant that was in my body, and the drinking and all the partying, and if you know, partaking in this and that every so often, I had to pay for all the sins of the fucking past. Luckily, you know, it wasn't anything totally crazy or that would end me up in like some kind of like, you know, Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. I wasn't a drug addict and I wasn't an alcoholic. Thank gosh, because I wasn't an addicted person. I knew that when I was suffering over something, I never turned to alcohol or drugs really at all. If anything, alcohol and drugs were more for just like have fun. But it was never a coping mechanism. When you're using alcohol and drugs for a coping mechanism, then you're self-medicating, and that's a whole other, you know, ball of wax you got to deal with. But in reality, my core values was that I would cry when things weren't going the right way. I would express. I would find ways to go and help myself in the ways I knew how, whether to go see a therapist if I was going through something, or go to a self-help thing like Landmark Education, you know, way back in the 90s in San Francisco. And so I always try to find a way to help myself. and use the resources at the time that were available. And so now I realize that I have to use resources like food to get me through. I have to understand my whole alimentary canal. Like this morning, I felt a little bit like congested. Okay, I was blowing my nose really hard, and then I was doing it out in the toilet, and then poop were coming out, and I had to help it around too because it wanted to stay up there, but I let it kept going and going. Fine, it's all gone, and then my nose is relatively clear, but you still hear stuff because there's I still have to release up here. But the more that you're congested up here, the more shit is down there, and these two do talk to each other. And that's what you have to understand, is that's why you have to blow your nose. That's why you have to cough and hawk up loogies, because that's how you then leverage the pressure to push everything out. You give the space to push out everything. So that way, whatever exposure to one environment, like an explosion that gives off black smoke, may color your environment for a minute, but then you shit it out tomorrow. But if you have so much shit in your body, then yeah, all that exposure is going to permeate all your crap until you're able to release. And then that's going to mix in with all the other microbes in your body, and you're going to see a lot of chemical reactions, and of which you're going to feel shit. And then what the whole point of the J world is, that you have to release the demons without using so much J juice and without using so many detoxes and herbal remedies. And you sit with the transgressions that of your environment, and then also of the past. See, I could be exposed to the environment the way Ohio is. I mean, I'm sure I could walk into East Palestine and I'd be fine. I'm sure I could even drink whatever water they have, the tap water, and I'd be fine. Because I have an immune system, I have a liver, I have kidneys, I have, a digestive system, and I have primary antibodies, and so my body will deal with whatever it is I get exposed to, and I'll shit it out tomorrow, and it would be like it never existed. But those that are harboring so much transgression and distress and demons inside, they will be in fear of that. They won't be able to handle. And I understand, when you've never been taught this, but people in the J world, you've been taught this, so I have no idea why you're afraid of your environment when you have the ability to change your environment at any given moment in time. But you have to still sit with feeling sick. You have to sit with atoning for your sins. Literally, you have to sit with that. And so really, atonement is the cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, pain. That's atonement. And people don't want to atone. Okay. If you don't want to atone for your sins, then death is the only recourse. That's literally what's going on. So that's why with this whole climate change, it's not anyone doing anything to you. You're the one that can redirect. But you have to atone for all the sins that you violate against your body from the medical and the holistic herbal remedy system. Rife machines, energy healing, all that. And people don't want to face that. And I get it. It's a lot to face when you've done so many shortcuts because you had so many issues, or you had such a lifestyle that you didn't want to change it. That's why I'm glad I was raised with money, which meant that I didn't have too much of a need, but it was still pretty interesting. But in my adulthood, I wasn't rich. I had temp jobs. I went from job to job and place to place and whatever. I found ways to survive. And so I didn't have the luxury to get lost in, being a drug addict or being an alcoholic or being an adrenaline junkie. I didn't have the money to do that. All I had was money to fucking survive, to eat, pay rent, and pay my utilities, and maybe have a little bit of fun on the weekends. But that was it. But I didn't have the money to destroy myself. When you have money to destroy yourself, you will destroy yourself, and then you have no other. That's why the rich out there, they don't really have it as easy as you think. They're trapped in that lifestyle, the trappings of wealth. And so they'll live their one life because they can't change. They've done too much to themselves, whether it's Botox, plastic surgery, or alcohol, or drugs, or they just don't want to stop their lifestyle to be sick to actually take care of themselves. So it's the surgeries and the remedies and everything else. So I'm so happy I didn't have a lot in my young adulthood. I am so happy that I struggled. I'm so happy I had the PMTD because that gave me the capacity to deal with stuff. Because even on, yesterday? Or was it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. Even Sunday, which was a pretty hard day. Because yesterday was Monday, yeah. It was a PMS for one day, and then now I just have my period, and it's just releasing. And I am pain-free. And I've earned the fucking right to be pain-free. Because even periods for women can trigger what was already in the body. That's what periods are. It's a reflection of the conscious. That's really how I have to say what PMS is. It's that your uterus is going to deal with shit that you don't want to deal with. And so some people have endometriosis. Some people have cervical cancer. Other people have so many different reproductive issues because they never face the issues in the rest of their body. And so the womb, the globe, the space for life in their gut or in their uterus, whatever, is then also paying the price. And they're forcing you to deal with what you didn't deal with. And that's why demons and gifts and all that could be transferred onto the kid. And that's why a lot of kids get a lot of different diseases, because the parents were trapping demons within and it transferred into the uterus. And so that's why you get then the movies like The Demon Seed, you know, The Children of the Corn, all the horror movies, Chucky, because yeah, when you have trapped demons inside and then it caused you to have a child, some children turn out great and awesome, just like the parent, but really it's the parent, it's the mom that makes or breaks her kids. It's the mom, because she's the one that carries them for 9 months. And all the things that she's ever done or didn't do. It gets carried into the child. So that's why you see the allegories about the horror movies about the demon seed, because sometimes really bad stuff gets transferred into the womb and you have a child that represents the transgressions you ever committed against yourself. So, I mean, I know that sounds very mean, but not really. It's actually, that's science. That's nature. And so in the future, way in the future, that's why they want to guide reproduction carefully, so we're not reproducing serial killers and bullies and really evil people who can't evolve. I've been up against so many different types of people out there. I know what's out there in the world. Believe me, it's not all pretty and freaking hearts and flowers. There's some pretty mean people out there. Very mean people. And a lot of it because of neurological issues and trauma in the womb, trauma in their life that was never resolved. And you can't force someone to change. You can't say, hey, you know, let's do a lobotomy. They tried that in different sanitariums, lobotomies and other stuff, but that just fucks up people even more. And so you have to be hands off, and you have to wait for them to commit a crime or whatever, and then they commit a crime and they go to jail, or you know, things come to a head and you know, all that. But we're not trying to deal with the wild, wild west here. Okay? And so that's why they do so much surveillance on Facebook, on Gmail, on YouTube, on all social media, your phones, because they know what they've produced out there. Who's they? The system. They know what they've produced out there. They know what people are capable of. And they know they have to surveil people because of lack of boundaries and other types of bullshit. And people do end up acting with the way they want to act through virtual. But it would definitely take something to do something physical against somebody. So that's the thing. You have to be very careful out there who it is you hang out with, who you meet, and all of that. And don't assume everyone is safe. Do not assume everyone is safe. And so, you know, but anyways, I earned the right to be pain-free. I purged out that trauma, and not because I forced it out. I gave it the space to leave. I dealt with it. I fought the demons within. I didn't try to hide behind anything. I atoned for my freaking sins. Oh, believe me, I atoned for them. The whole thing, the week after my dog passing, I had to atone for those sins of trying to save her from what was already set to happen. People told me, but it's fine. People tell me a lot of things. Doesn't mean I'm going to listen to everybody. People tell them stuff, and they're not going to listen to me. I've told them stuff. They're not going to listen to me. So why should I listen to them? You have to be the one to commit the transgression and then pay for it. When you think about it. And so I tried to save my dog from what was already set to happen. And the microbes were like, yeah, nope. And they came and attacked me. And I had to go and atone for that sin. And I did. Using my methodology. Because someone other than me would have died from that exposure. They wouldn't have what it takes to deal with. And that was a pretty aggressive microbe that entered into my bloodstream. Very aggressive. But I had the strength to deal with it. And so that was a reminder to me that, you know, at this point, just wait on having an animal. Because right now, the world is really fucked up. And a lot of the animals out there are messed up. Been through trauma, been through countless owners, and you don't know what you're getting. And if you are really about life, you'll be very careful what kind of life you bring into your world. Very careful what kind of life you invite into your world. So, J-World, just, I've given you a response that would still be aligned with your lifestyle and your belief systems if you believe in the J-World. And you can still be sympathetic to someone, but you don't want to be the one to end their suffering. You don't want to be the one to end their suffering. You want them to survive the pains of life. You want them to survive their own transgressions, because they're going to have to. You can't do it for them. You can't atone for somebody else's sins. They got to do it for themselves. And that was the whole point of the medical and the holistic system. We think about it. That they are the absolution. If you don't want to atone for your sins, they'll end your life. They'll end your suffering. And they do. They're all over fucking Facebook. You can throw a rock and hit someone who will sell you some kind of remedy. And it was meant to be that way. The MLMers were meant to be that way. They want your friends and family to end your suffering. Because they're your friends and family. You trust them. Maybe now it's time to start reconsidering your lifestyle and belief systems if you want to live in this next world. And this next world isn't bad. I think it's actually going to be really awesome. The Georgia Guidestones was right fucking spot on. I absolutely believe in the Georgia Guidestones. Now I hope I survive the Georgia Guidestones. But I fucking understand it. I've been up against the shit out there. I understand why they're trying to guide reproduction carefully. Look what we're producing. That you have to go and deal with and put defenses against. That's the thing. When you have to put defenses against things out there, people who have absolutely no fucking boundaries, that's why the Georgia Guidestones exist. So the New World Order actually is correct. All right, bye.